What do you say about Good Friday? It's Good Friday today. And we all have a blessed Good Friday as we prepare for this Easter holiday season. And may we all have peace, tranquility in our lives, and solve some of the challenges that we face using our own mental functions and focus. What I'd like to do today is finish up a three-part series that I started with a article in the Men's Health Advisor put out by Cleveland Clinic. And the title of that article was Find Your Focus to Spark Your Memory. And I just found this has got to be one of the best articles I've ever seen on a couple of pages that really put the knowledge, I try not to use the focus, but that put a focus on some of the things that we can do to improve our memories. And as I always say, there's hope for all of us, regardless of your age and your sex and where you may be in life. The thing that I'm talking to someone about yesterday, a doctor at one of the medical facilities here, was that there are some things that we can do to improve our memory regardless of our age. And the trick to that is, not the trick, the secret to that is what are those things? And what might we as individuals be able to do to make a difference and to improve, to some degree, our own memories? And not feel like it's, I always say it's like a muscle. It's like, God, what do we do to build our muscles? Be it our chest, be it our arms, be it even our physical therapy of our hands, our lower back, our legs and ankles. Well, there are some things that we can do to help improve our memory. And so I find this article to really be as comprehensive as any one particular article put out by the Cleveland Clinic. And I thought they've done a really superb job. I'm trying to see it's a doctor, PhD, Aaron Bonner Jackson, a neuropsychologist at their Center for Brain Health. I just think he did a superb job in this article. And this is from someone who has run the USA Memory Championship for 27 years. And I've gotten to see the opportunity of men and women of all ages, all sexes, learning the skills and the different techniques that they can use to be a mental athlete and compete in the USA Memory Championship. So it's not that I've just read this for the first time. I've not seen it summarized so well in a page of an article. So let's go through some of the tips that the doctor recommends here. This is so obvious, and yet people continue to think they can do it, and that is to avoid multitasking, especially if the task requires concentration. Now, what does that mean? Your mental athlete, your mental capacities have to stay focused. So when you look at mental athletes, you see some of them, they have headsets on. They don't want to be distracted by noises in the room. They might have certain sets of glasses on to just block out distractions that they have when they're in a listening mode. So the mental athletes have learned how to stay focused on information or thing they may be reading, which in the case they can't block their eyes, but they certainly can block their ears, different things they're listening to. We do the Tea Party event. And so they've learned in their practicing and preparing for the memory championship how to stay focused and not have multitasking going on because they're in full concentration. So what Doc says here, avoid multitasking, especially if the task requires significant concentration. Well, I'm in a memory competition. I'm in a competition. My goodness, there's a stress level right there in itself. And I want to stay focused. And therefore, they block out these distractions and they do not multitask, especially because they're in a heavy mode of concentration. How about shutting off your smartphone? Well, they are not allowed to have their smartphone, so this is an easy one. But shut off your smartphone and other electronic devices and remove sources of noise and distractions, as I just explained. So I'm not going to go back over that, but to you, your smartphones, we're constantly looking at smartphones. We hear it bing, and we got to go run to the smartphone. I don't know what I was doing, but I could forget what I was doing because something just came in on the smartphone. Now I got to get off and run over to the smartphone. And there's nothing worse than leaving a smartphone next to your bedstand and trying to get a good night's rest, and you hear ding. So I've learned to hide the smartphone during my sleeping hours, or at least shut the volume off so I don't hear any interruptions during the evening, get a good night's rest. So the doc here says, shut off your smartphone and other electronic devices and move sources of noise and distractions. Again, when you're trying to improve or focus on something that you want to retain and remember. So you're in a very important conversation, you're in an important meeting. I got meetings. How many times I've been in business meetings now, and I see people with their phones, right? And they're looking at their phones trying to listen to a speaker. Kids are in school, right? And it's like some schools that I know of are just restricting no iPhones or smartphones in the classroom. Good idea. How about visualizing? And so there's no multitasking, and shut off your electronic devices when you're looking to focus on something that's important to you. You're in the middle of a test, you don't need distractions in the middle of a test. Visualize and verbalize whatever information you're receiving. Now visualize. So it says, okay, if I'm trying to remember a person's name or a face, let me visualize, focus on that person's face. Let me see if there's any unique markings. Oh, wrong side of my face. Let's go to this one. All right, any unique markings on a face that may help you to say, oh, I see that mark, and I remember Tony, the guy that goes to New York. He's got this dot on the side of his face. That's a dot. And sometimes he plays golf, he has a golf tee on his nose. That's Tony Dottino. And I saw this dot with the T and the nose, and he goes to New York when he lives in Florida. That's Tony Dottino. So we visualize and verbalize information we may be trying to remember, similar to a face of a person that's a business associate or someone we want to remember, or we want to network with, or we want to just make into social interactions with. And we want to show people we think that they're important. So we want to stay focused and not be distracted by our smartphones, not try doing something else while we're listening to somebody talking to us. And we want to visualize and then verbalize, hey, that's Tony Dottino. How about breaking large pieces of information? So that's 3 tips that the doc gives us here. Breaking large pieces of information in smaller pieces. Divide a 10-digit phone number into 3-digit area codes, 3-digit prefix, and then the remaining 4. So breaking information up, and I've seen this in the memory, again, I keep using the memory competition because this is where I've seen it demonstrated so well, the tips that the doc is mentioning here, and that's breaking up. We give them digits, 500 digits to remember in 5 minutes to get as many of them as they can. And the mental athletes have learned to break those digits up into 3 chunks of 3s and 4s and make up stories about them. Maybe it's a track meet. Maybe it's a time for something they're trying to do in terms of an exercise routine. They string these numbers into sequences, and boom, before you know it, 100 numbers are stuck in your head. How about using word associations or try to relate new information to something you already know? So now, what does that mean? Well, I know something already. It's anchored into my head. I know another person by the name of Tony. So I'm going to associate that Tony with the other Tony, and the next thing I know, I've got a picture and an image and an association with 2 people that are both named Tony. Now, the last names may create a little bit of visualization, a little bit of activity, but it now begins to work together to help you to retain information. Reporting sleep problems. Well, my goodness. Any sleep problems or hearing or vision issues, obviously, we need to take care of for a whole lot of reasons. But certainly, if we're not getting a good night's sleep, we're certainly going to be tired and not be able to focus other than, when do I get to go to sleep again? And so sleeping is from insomnia to, I got 8 things going on in my head, trying to get ready for this competition tomorrow, work project, got an important doctor's appointment, and now I'm not sleeping, I'm tossing and turning, and then I got to get up and remember, where am I going, what am I doing, what exam do I have to pass? And then Doc here talks about you looking at medication. Might any of your medications muscle relaxers, nerve medications, might they have an impact on your memory? And you stop and think medications are good for us, but maybe something that's for pain in your shoulder and a muscle relaxer, maybe also relaxing your focus on your brain. And then he talks about limiting your caffeine intake. My goodness, being over-caffeinated affects your ability to focus. Maybe you're a little bit more on the hyper side. And you've got distraction from staying focused. So again, I just have to commend the Dr. Aaron Bonner Jackson, neuropsychologist from the Cleveland Clinic's Center for Brain Health, with a really superb piece of work that just puts it all down in a very simple format for people to really understand how do you stay focused in helping your memory to remember things that are important to you, so that when you need that information, you're not standing there spinning around in a circle, but that you're in control. And we've completed our pre-Easter week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, my 3 parts of, well, that's again, as I said, it's just a really terrific article from somebody that's been at this for over 30 years and reading what he's written here. And with that, have a happy Easter to all of those that are celebrating Sunday. And we'll see you back here next week.